"Yes, baby," I whispered. And she smiled, claiming me as hers. The accidental encounter. The night shift on Celestara Station meant solitude, and Kieran Voss preferred it that way. His workspace hummed with the quiet rhythm of data streams, stellar coordinates, gravitational anomalies, cosmic radiation patterns flowing across multiple screens in soothing blue light. He'd perfected this routine over 18 months. Arrive at 2200 hours, immerse himself in numbers until 0600, and return to his quarters without seeing another soul. Tonight shattered that pattern spectacularly. The laboratory door hissed open with unexpected violence. Finally, someone's actually here. A woman rushed in, arms wrapped around a containment unit that pulsed with soft green and violet light. Her hair was pulled back messily, and her lab coat bore mysterious stains. "You're the systems guy, right? Kieran something?" He blinked at the intrusion. "Kieran Voss, data analysis, actually. Can I—" "Perfect, you understand computers." She set the container down on his desk without asking, somehow managing not to disturb any of his equipment. "I'm Alara Quinn, xenobotany. My lab's environmental controls just died, and if I don't get these meridian orchids into proper humidity in the next 15 minutes, 6 months of research becomes very expensive compost." Kieran stared at the plants. They seemed to breathe, their bioluminescent petals opening and closing rhythmically. Fascinating. Then he registered her expectant expression. "I'm not really qualified for environmental, but you know the station systems better than those useless techs who won't answer emergency calls at midnight, right?" She leaned against his desk, fixing him with eyes that sparkled with desperation and something playful. "Please, I'll owe you tremendously." Something about her directness made refusal impossible. Kieran stood, grabbing his portable diagnostic tablet. "Botanical Wing, Section 7? You're my hero." Her smile transformed her entire face, and Kieran felt something unexpected flutter in his chest. The walk through empty corridors felt strangely intimate. Alara filled the silence with explanations about her orchids, species from a moon orbiting Proxima Centauri, adaptive camouflage properties, potential medical applications. Her enthusiasm was infectious, her hands moving expressively as she spoke. Her laboratory was chaos compared to his ordered workspace. Equipment covered every surface. Plant specimens in various stages of growth occupied specially lit shelves, and handwritten notes competed for space on digital displays. The temperature gauge read 28 degrees, far too warm. "See, disaster," Alara gestured dramatically. Kieran approached the environmental control panel, running diagnostics. The problem revealed itself quickly. Someone had installed a conflicting override protocol, probably during routine maintenance. His fingers moved across the interface, adjusting parameters and removing the corrupted code. "How long have you been on Celestara?" Alara asked, watching him work. 18 months. "And you always work nights alone?" "I prefer the quiet." "That's the saddest thing I've heard all week." But her tone held no judgment, only gentle teasing. "You know what you need? More interruptions. Keeps life interesting." The environmental system hummed back to proper function, cool air flooding the space. The temperature began dropping immediately. "There," Kieran said, straightening. "Should stabilize at 21 degrees within 10 minutes." Alara checked her orchids, relief evident. She turned to him, stepping closer than professionally necessary. "Thank you, Kieran Voss. Seriously." Her hand touched his arm briefly. "How can I repay this late-night rescue?" His throat felt dry. "Not necessary, just doing—" "Coffee tomorrow. I make a mean cappuccino in the observation deck cafe. Consider it consulting payment for future botanical emergencies. Because, let's be honest, I'll probably break something else eventually." Kieran found himself smiling despite his usual reserve. "Tomorrow, then." "It's a date," she said brightly, then paused, tilting her head. "Well, not a date, unless you want it to be." I'm terrible at this. Her sudden awkwardness was endearing. "Coffee sounds good," he managed. Walking back to his workspace, Kieran couldn't stop replaying their conversation. The warmth of her gratitude, the way she looked at him like he'd saved entire worlds instead of just some plants. Perhaps interruptions weren't always unwelcome.
Coffee and starlight. The observation deck cafe occupied Celestera Station's most coveted real estate, a transparent dome offering unobstructed views of the spiral galaxy beyond. Kieran arrived early, unusual for him, clutching his standard-issue datapad like a shield. He'd told himself this was simply professional courtesy, but his carefully chosen clean shirt suggested otherwise. "There's my hero!" And Lara's voice carried across the nearly empty cafe. She waved from a corner table, 2 steaming cups already waiting. She'd changed from yesterday's stained lab coat into a deep blue sweater that matched the star field behind her. Kieran navigated between tables, acutely aware of his own awkwardness. "You didn't have to buy. Please, after saving my research, this is the least I can do." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Besides, I promised you an excellent cappuccino, and I always keep my promises." He sat, accepting the cup. The first sip revealed she hadn't exaggerated. Perfectly balanced, rich without bitterness. "This is exceptional." "Told you." Ilara's satisfaction was childlike. "I have exactly 3 talents: keeping plants alive, making coffee, and talking too much. You'll experience all 3 if you stick around." "I don't mind listening." The admission surprised him. Her expression softened. "Dangerous words, Kieran. I could talk for hours about fungal networks or atmospheric composition effects on chlorophyll adaptation." She paused, studying him with open curiosity. "But let's start smaller. What made you choose deep space data analysis? Most people find it incredibly boring." "That's exactly why," I said honestly. "After growing up on overcrowded Earth stations, constant noise, endless people, the predictability of stellar data felt peaceful. Numbers don't surprise you or disappoint you. They just are." Ilara leaned forward, elbows on the table. "But doesn't that get lonely? All those night shifts with just computers for company?" "Sometimes." He met her eyes, finding unexpected understanding there. "What about you? Xenobotany seems equally solitary." "Oh, but plants are wonderful company," she laughed. "They grow, change, respond to care. There's communication in how they thrive or struggle. Plus, they never interrupt me or judge my weird theories." She took a sip of coffee. "Though, I'll admit, human conversation has its merits, especially when that human has kind eyes and knows how to fix things." Heat crept up Kieran's neck. "I just followed basic diagnostic procedures." "You dropped everything at midnight to help a stranger save some flowers. That's more than technical skill." Her foot brushed his under the table. Accidental or intentional, he couldn't tell. "That's character." The conversation flowed easier after that. Ilara described her childhood on agricultural colony Verdania, where she'd first fallen in love with alien ecosystems. Kieran found himself sharing memories he rarely vocalized, his mother's passion for astronomy, the day he'd first seen Earth from orbit, the strange grief of leaving solid ground forever. "I love that," Ilara said softly, "how you describe space. Most people talk about the loneliness, but you see it as belonging to something infinite." "Don't you? Your work suggests you understand finding beauty in alien things." She smiled, something vulnerable crossing her features. "I do, but it's nice hearing someone else say it." She glanced at the chronometer. "Oh, no, I've kept you for 90 minutes. Don't you need sleep before your shift?" "It's fine." And surprisingly, it was. His usual pre-shift rest felt less important than this moment. "Same time tomorrow?"
Elara asked, hope evident in her voice. Kieran nodded, already anticipating it. The pattern established itself naturally over the following weeks. Morning coffee became afternoon project collaboration when Elara needed help analyzing growth data patterns. Kieran found excuses to stop by her laboratory, fascinated by her work and, increasingly, by her. She had a gift for making even complex botanical processes sound like adventures, her enthusiasm lighting up every explanation. One evening, 3 weeks into their routine, Elara appeared at his workspace unannounced. "Break time, come with me. I'm in the middle of analyzing gravitational fluctuations that have been stable for millennia. They'll still be there in an hour." She grabbed his hand, tugging him toward the door. "Trust me." He let her lead him through corridors to the station's uppermost observation dome, a smaller, less frequented space than the cafe. The dome was dark except for emergency lighting, making the stars impossibly bright. "I discovered this spot last week," Elara whispered, as if loud sounds might disturb the cosmic view. "Figured you'd appreciate it." They stood side by side, close enough that he could smell her shampoo, something floral and unfamiliar. The silence stretched comfortably. "That cluster there," Kieran said, finally, pointing to a dense gathering of stars. "The Pleiades. My mother showed me old Earth photographs of them. Said they looked like diamonds scattered on velvet." "Poet," Elara teased gently. She shifted closer, her shoulder touching his. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then Elara smiled, that brilliant, transformative smile, and stepped back. "Come on, let's get you back to your gravitational fluctuations before they think you've abandoned them." Walking back, their hands remained linked, and Kieran realized his carefully constructed solitude had become something he no longer wanted.
The collaboration started innocently enough. Elara needed help creating a predictive model for her orchid's bioluminescent patterns, which seemed to correlate with stellar radiation fluctuations. Kieran's expertise in cosmic data made him the perfect partner. They requisitioned a small, shared workspace, neutral territory between his analytical domain and her botanical chaos. "I'm warning you now," Elara said, unpacking equipment on their third evening together. "I'm a terrible collaborator. I forget to eat, argue with my own hypotheses out loud, and sometimes rearrange everything at 2 in the morning when inspiration strikes." Kieran looked up from calibrating sensors. "I color code my data files, set 17 different alarms, and once spent 6 hours debugging code only to realize I'd been looking at the wrong data set." She laughed, that sound he'd grown addicted to. "We're disasters. This should be interesting." Interesting proved an understatement. They fell into an easy rhythm, her intuitive leaps complementing his methodical analysis. Elara would pace while thinking, gesturing wildly as she explained theories. Kieran would listen, occasionally interjecting questions that refined her ideas into testable hypotheses. But the real work happened in the spaces between. Shared meals brought from the cafeteria, her stealing his stylus to sketch plant structures on his digital notes, him watching her examine specimens with such focused tenderness it made his chest ache. Tonight, well past midnight, they'd finally isolated the correlation pattern. Elara's orchids responded to specific radiation wavelengths in predictable cycles, their luminescence intensifying or dimming in direct relationship to stellar activity thousands of light years away. "This is incredible," Elara breathed, studying the visual model Kieran had generated. She turned to him, eyes bright with excitement. "Do you understand what this means? These plants are essentially living sensors responding to cosmic events in real time. We could use them for early warning systems, navigation aids, maybe even—" She stopped, registering how close they'd moved to each other while examining the display. The workspace suddenly felt smaller, the air charged. "Sorry," she said softly, not moving away. "I get carried away." "Don't apologize." Kieran's voice came out rougher than intended. "Your passion it's remarkable." Elara tilted her head, studying him with new intensity. "You always do that. Deflect compliments. Why? Do I?" "Constantly.
Like you don't believe you deserve appreciation." She reached out, fingers brushing his collar where it had twisted during their long work session, straightening it with careful attention. "For someone so brilliant with patterns and data, you're remarkably bad at recognizing your own value." His breath caught. They were inches apart now, and he could see flecks of gold in her eyes he'd never noticed before. "Ilara—" "You know what I think?" she interrupted, her tone shifting to that playful challenge he'd come to recognize. "I think you hide behind all that data and solitude because you're scared. Scared of letting someone in. Scared of being seen." "Maybe," he admitted. His heart pounded so loudly he was certain she could hear it. "Well, I see you, Kiran Voss. And I like what I see. A lot, actually. Probably more than is professionally appropriate for a research collaboration." The confession hung between them. Kiran felt himself at a precipice. He could step back into safety, make a joke, change the subject. Or he could jump. He jumped. "I think about you. Constantly." The admission escaped before courage failed. "You're the first thing I look forward to every day, and the last thing I think about before sleep. You've made everything brighter, and I—" He paused, gathering courage. "I'm terrified of how much I need you." Ilara's expression transformed, playfulness giving way to something tender and fierce. "Say that again?" "I need you?" "No," she smiled, stepping even closer. "The other part." "I think about you constantly?" "Yes, baby." And suddenly her arms were around his neck. That's what I wanted to hear. The endearment struck something deep within him. "Baby?" he questioned softly, a small smile forming. "Too much?" But her eyes sparkled with mischief and something deeper: possession, affection, certainty. "No." He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close. "Not too much." Ilara's smile turned radiant. She rose on her toes, bringing their faces level. "Good. Because I've decided something. You're mine now, Kiran. I'm claiming you. Your brilliant mind, your kind heart, your terrible sleep schedule, all of it." "Yours," he agreed, the word feeling like a vow. Their first kiss was tentative, questioning, a careful exploration of this new territory. Then Ilara sighed against his lips, and gentleness gave way to urgency. His hands tangled in her hair, while hers pressed against his back, pulling him closer, as if distance was unbearable. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Ilara pressed her forehead to his. "I've wanted to do that for weeks." "Why didn't you?" "Scared," she admitted with unusual vulnerability. "What if you didn't feel the same? What if I ruined this friendship? It's the best thing in my life. I couldn't risk losing it." Kiran cupped her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. "You could never lose me. I'm exactly where I want to be." She kissed him again, softer this time, filled with promise. "Take me somewhere," she murmured against his lips. "Not here, not the lab. Somewhere that's just ours." Hand in hand, they left the workspace, abandoning their research for something infinitely more important. The station's corridors felt different now, transformed from simple passages into the backdrop of their beginning. Kiran's quarters were modest, but Ilara didn't seem to notice or care. She looked around with interest. The precisely organized books, the photographs of Earth and distant galaxies, the small touches that revealed his private self. "This is very you," she said approvingly. "Is that good?" She turned, wrapping her arms around him again. "It's perfect. You're perfect." "I'm really not." "Shh." She kissed him quiet. "Let me adore you without argument. It's exhausting fighting your modesty." They settled on his bed, fully clothed but intertwined, trading kisses and whispered confessions. Ilara told him about failed relationships that left her wary of vulnerability. Kiran shared his fear of attachment after losing his mother. They mapped each other's histories with gentle questions and honest answers. "I meant what I said," Ilara murmured eventually, her head resting on his chest. "You're mine now." "And you're mine?" She lifted her head, meeting his eyes with fierce certainty. "Completely, absolutely, yours." Outside, stars wheeled through endless space. But here, in this small room on a distant station, two people found their orbit around each other, gravity of a different kind, pulling them together with irresistible force.
Growing together. Morning light filtered through Kieran's viewport, artificial dawn programmed to simulate Earth's sunrise. He woke to find Ilara still curled against him, her breathing soft and even. They'd fallen asleep talking, fully dressed, her hand clasped in his. Something about watching her sleep made his heart constrict with unexpected tenderness. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing on him with immediate recognition and warmth. "Morning," she whispered, smiling. "Still mine?" "Still yours," he confirmed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. They stumbled through establishing new routines, whose quarters to stay in, how to navigate work schedules, when to tell colleagues about their relationship. Ilara advocated for complete transparency. Kieran worried about professional complications. They compromised, keeping things quiet for now but making no effort to hide their growing closeness. The station's tight-knit community noticed anyway. "You're glowing," remarked Chen, Kieran's fellow analyst, catching him smiling at his datapad during a briefing. "New meditation technique, or finally getting proper sleep?" Something like that," Kieran replied, unable to suppress his grin. What surprised him most was how effortlessly Ilara integrated into his carefully structured life. She'd appear at his workspace with sandwiches when he forgot lunch, leaving little notes decorated with hand-drawn plants. He'd stop by her laboratory with tea blends. He'd research for optimal alertness, staying to help catalog specimens. 2 weeks into their relationship, Ilara invited him somewhere she'd never taken anyone. "Close your eyes," she instructed, leading him through unfamiliar corridors in the station's agricultural section. "No peeking, data analyst. I know you love spoiling surprises with probability calculations." "I don't," but he did, and her knowing laugh confirmed it. She stopped, and he felt her hand leave his. "Okay. Open." Kieran opened his eyes to wonder. They stood in a hidden greenhouse he'd never known existed, a small biodome tucked into Celestar's infrastructure. But unlike the station's standard agricultural spaces, this was wild. Alien plants from dozens of worlds grew in beautiful chaos. Crimson vines with silver flowers, blue-leafed shrubs that hummed softly, towering ferns with fractal patterns that seemed to shift as he watched. "This is my secret," Ilara said quietly, vulnerability evident. "I've been cultivating this for 3 years. Most specimens are from worlds we've barely cataloged, seeds and cuttings traded with other xenobotanists, grown from pure curiosity rather than research mandates." She turned to him. "No one else knows about this. Just me. And now you." Kieran walked deeper into the space, overwhelmed by the trust she was offering. "Ilara, this is extraordinary. The diversity alone, the ecological balance you've achieved." "I don't want analysis," she interrupted gently. "I want you to just experience it. Feel it." She took his hand, leading him to a central clearing where a simple bench sat beneath something resembling a willow tree, its branches dripping with bioluminescent moss. They sat together, enveloped by alien beauty. The air smelled of growing things and possibilities. "Why show me?" asked Kieran. "Because you matter," she said simply. "Because I want you to know all of me, not just the professional scientist, but the person who sometimes spends whole nights talking to plants and crying over seedlings that don't survive." She leaned against him. "You've shared your solitude with me. This is mine." He kissed her temple, overwhelmed with emotion. "Thank you for trusting me." They spent hours there, Ilara explaining each plan's origin and quirks, while Kieran listened with rapt attention. She showed him a crystalline flower that only bloomed in complete darkness, its petals unfolding in their shadow. He watched her hands move with practiced gentleness, the same care she showed him. As evening approached, Alara turned serious. I need to tell you something about why I'm so careful with relationships. Kieran waited, giving her space to continue. On Verdania, I was engaged. His name was Marcus, fellow botanist, brilliant researcher, my best friend. We planned everything together. Marriage, research partnerships, children eventually. Then he got offered a position on a prestigious Earth Institute. He wanted me to give up my deep space work, move back, support his career. You said no. I said, let's find a compromise. But for him, compromise meant me sacrificing my dreams for his. Her voice tightened. He left. Said I was choosing plants over love, that I'd always be alone because I cared more about alien worlds than building a real life. Kieran took her hand, intertwining their fingers. He was wrong. Was he? Alara's eyes shimmered. Sometimes I wonder if I'm capable of putting someone first, if my work will always matter more than... Stop. Kieran turned her to face him. You're asking the wrong question. It's not about choosing between passion and love. The right person wouldn't demand that choice. They'd celebrate your work because it's part of what makes you extraordinary. You really believe that? I know it. Your dedication, your curiosity, your refusal to compromise your dreams, those aren't flaws, Alara. They're reasons I'm falling in love with you. She inhaled sharply. You're falling in love with me? The words had escaped unchecked, but Kieran found he didn't want to take them back. Yes. Completely. Terrifyingly. Alara's smile bloomed like her rarest flower. Good. Because I'm already there. Fell weeks ago, probably that first night when you fixed my lab without hesitation. She cupped his face. I love you, Kieran Voss. Your steadiness, your kindness, the way you listen like every word matters. You make me feel seen in ways I never expected. Their kiss tasted like promises and hope, surrounded by life they'd both dedicated themselves to understanding. When they finally drew apart, both were grinning. Stay tonight. Here, in my garden, I have blankets stored in the maintenance locker. We can sleep under these stars. They made a nest beneath the willow-like tree, wrapped in thermal blankets, the biodome's soft sounds surrounding them. Alara tucked herself against Kieran's chest, and he held her close, marveling at how completely his life had transformed. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Alara murmured sleepily. Kieran thought carefully. Sometimes I feel guilty for being happy in space. My mother loved Earth, solid ground, real weather, the ocean. She died never understanding why I wanted to leave. I worry she thought I was running away from her memory. Alara shifted to look at him. Or maybe she knew you needed to find where you belonged. Parents want their children happy, even if happiness looks different than they imagined. I think she'd be proud of who you've become. The tightness in his chest loosened. Thank you. Your turn. Ask me something. What do you need from me to feel loved, supported? What matters most? She considered this seriously. Patience. When I get obsessed with projects and forget the world exists. Honesty, even when it's difficult. And this, she gestured around. Moments where we're just us. No roles or expectations. Can you give me that? Always. claiming forever. The alarm came at 0347 hours. Harsh, insistent, the kind that meant genuine emergency. Kieran jolted awake in Alara's quarters, immediately reaching for his communicator while she stirred beside him. All personnel to emergency stations. Hall breach in Sector 9. Repeat, hall breach. That's near the botanical wing, Ilara said, suddenly alert. Her face paled. My laboratory. My garden. They dressed frantically, joining crowds flooding the corridors. Emergency protocols separated them. Kieran to the data center to help coordinate repair efforts, Ilara to assess biological contamination risks. Their last glimpse was her frightened face disappearing into a sea of running personnel. The next 6 hours were chaos. A meteoroid had punctured Silastara's outer hull, causing explosive decompression in 3 sections. Miraculously, no one was in those areas during impact, but the structural damage was severe. Kieran worked frantically, routing power, adjusting life support, coordinating with engineering teams, all while his heart screamed Alara's name. His communicator remained silent. Station-wide protocols locked down non-essential communications during emergencies. He didn't know where she was, if she was safe, whether her laboratory, her garden, had survived. When the all-clear finally sounded, Kieran abandoned his post despite proper procedures. He ran through corridors still thick with emergency lighting, searching desperately. He found her in the observation deck, standing alone against the stars, still in her emergency gear. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Ilara! He reached her in seconds, turning her into his arms. She collapsed against him, grief pouring out. It's gone. All of it. The breach was directly above the biodome. Everything exposed to vacuum. 3 years of work. Irreplaceable specimens. My garden. Her voice broke completely. Kieran held her tighter, letting her cry, his own eyes burning. I'm so sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry. They stayed like that until her tears subsided into exhausted hiccups. Ilara pulled back slightly, wiping her face. I thought I might lose you too. When the alarms went off, not knowing where you were or if you were safe, nothing matters. Not the plants, not the research, nothing. If I lost you, I didn't. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise me. Her hands gripped his shirt desperately. Promise me that no matter what happens, transfers, emergencies, whatever the universe throws at us, we stay together. I can't do this without you anymore. I don't want to. I promise, Kieran said fiercely. Ilara, I love you. You're the only home I need. Wherever you are, that's where I belong. She kissed him desperately, clinging like he might disappear. When they separated, something resolute had settled in her expression, despite the grief. I need to say something. That first night in your workspace, when I called you my hero, I wasn't entirely joking. You saved something precious to me. But these past months, you've saved something more important. You've saved me from loneliness I didn't even realize I was drowning in. You saved me too, Kieran admitted. I was so afraid of connection, convinced solitude was safer than risking loss. Then you crashed into my life and proved that love is worth the risk. Every time. Ilara managed a watery smile. We're quite the pair of disasters, aren't we? The best kind. They returned to her quarters, neither willing to be apart. Ilara fell asleep almost immediately, emotionally exhausted. Kieran held her close, listening to her breathing even out, making silent vows to the universe. The next morning, they faced the damage together. Ilara's main laboratory was salvageable, though several experiments were ruined, but the biodome was completely destroyed, a twisted mass of metal and withered plants exposed to space's merciless vacuum. We'll rebuild, Kieran said, squeezing her hand as they surveyed the wreckage. It won't be the same. No, he agreed. It'll be different, but different doesn't mean lesser. We'll make something new together. Ilara turned to him, something shifting in her expression. Together? If you want.
I want everything with you. Move in with me, officially. Let's stop pretending we're maintaining separate lives. Let's apply for joint quarters, combine our spaces, build something that's truly ours. Joy surged through his chest. Yes, absolutely yes. And when my research grant here expires in 8 months, come with me. Wherever I'm assigned next, let's go together. I'll support your work, you support mine. We'll make it work because that's what people do when they're planning forever. Forever, Kieran repeated, the words sacred between them. I love you, Elara Quinn. I want forever with you. Even when I'm obsessive and messy and forget to eat, especially then. She laughed through fresh tears, happy ones this time. I'm claiming you again. Officially, permanently. You're mine, Kieran Voss, and I'm never letting go. Good. He pulled her close, kissing her thoroughly. Because you're mine too. Have been since that first night, probably. I just didn't know it yet. The rebuilding process took weeks. They worked side by side, salvaging what could be saved, designing new spaces. Station administration, impressed with their collaborative research, approved joint quarters, a larger space with room for both his analytical equipment and her botanical specimens. Moving in together felt like coming home. They merged belongings with surprising ease. His books beside her plant guides, their clothes sharing closet space, photographs of their separate pasts creating a timeline toward their shared future. One evening, arranging equipment in their new shared laboratory space, Elara stopped suddenly. I forgot to tell you. Remember those meridian orchids from the first night? The ones you saved? Of course. They survived the breach. They were in a separate climate-controlled unit that sealed automatically. Out of everything, those ridiculous flowers that brought us together made it through. Her smile was radiant. It feels like a sign. A sign of what? That we were always meant to find each other. That some things are just meant to survive no matter what the universe throws at them. I believe that. I believe in us. Show me, she whispered, her expression shifting to something heated and tender. Later, tangled together in their new bed, hearts still racing, Elara traced idle patterns on his chest. You know what the best part of today was? I can think of several recent highlights. Besides that, it was realizing this is just the beginning. We have years ahead of us, decades, hopefully. More adventures, more challenges, more moments exactly like this. Does that scare you? Terrifies me. In the best possible way. The thought of building an entire life with you, it's overwhelming and perfect and everything I didn't know I needed. Good answer. Because you're stuck with me now. You're mine, I'm yours, and we're going to be insufferably happy together. Promise? Promise. Outside their viewport, the galaxy turned in its eternal dance. Billions of stars burning through infinite night. But here, in this small space they'd claimed as their own, two people had found their own light, their own gravity, their own perfect orbit. Kieran held Elara close, listening to our breathing slow toward sleep, and thought about that first night, how she'd burst into his carefully ordered solitude demanding help, how terrified he had been of connection, how completely she had transformed everything. Thank you, he whispered, though he wasn't sure if she was still awake. For what? Came her sleepy response. For claiming me, for seeing something worth keeping, for crashing into my life and refusing to leave. Ilara's arms tightened around him. Best decision I ever made. You're worth keeping, Kieran Voss. Worth everything. They slept like that, wrapped in each other and promises. Two hearts beating in synchrony, two lives permanently intertwined. Whatever came next, new assignments, new worlds, new challenges, they would face together. Forever, they had promised, and neither had any intention of breaking that vow. The end.